In the headlines, INEC chairman holds meeting with RECs, promises use of BVAS in governorship and House of Assembly elections. Police parade suspected electoral offenders in Cross River State. Troops neutralize bandit, rescue 14 kidnapped victims in Kaduna. On the foreign scene, thousands protest in Tunisia as calls grow for President Said to resign. Hello and welcome to News Update on Trust Television. I am Nten Ekpan. And on the news in full, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, has assured Nigerians that the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS will be used in the forthcoming governorship and state legislature elections. Yakubu gave the assurance on Saturday in a meeting with all state resident electoral commissioners, RECs, at the INEC headquarters in Abuja. According to him, the BVAS machines will be used for the elections, adding that the devices are being reviewed to avoid a repeat of the glitches recorded with last Saturday's elections. The INEC chairman noted that the meeting was to review performances at the last week's elections, adding that there were lessons to be learned from last week's elections, especially as it relates to logistics management.
Last week's national elections raised a number of issues that require immediate, medium, and long-term solutions. The planning for the election was painstakingly done. However, its implementation came with challenges. As we approach the governorship and state assembly elections, we must work harder to overcome the challenges experienced in the last election. Nothing else will be acceptable to Nigerians. All staff found to be negligent, whether they are regular or ad hoc officials, including collation and returning officers, must not be involved in the forthcoming election. RECs must also immediately initiate disciplinary action where prima facie evidence of wrongdoing has been established against any staff involved in the election. The bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, will once again be deployed for voter accreditation and result management. The deployment of BVAS has gone a long way to sanitize voter accreditation, as can be seen from the results of recent elections. Since last week, the Commission has intensified the review of the technology to ensure that glitches experienced, particularly with the upload of results, are rectified. We are confident that going forward, the system will run optimally.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Rivers State has released the comprehensive results of the National Assembly elections conducted in the state last Saturday. Elections were conducted in 3 senatorial districts and 13 federal constituencies of the state. The summary of the result shows that the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, won the 3 senatorial seats and 9 out of 11 federal constituencies where results were published. The other 2 federal constituencies were won by the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the Labour Party. The APC won in Okrika, Ogu, and the Labour Party in Port Harcourt Constituency 1. The federal constituencies where results were not released are Kana-Gokana and Port Harcourt Constituency 2. In Kana-Gokana Federal Constituency, INEC declared the election inconclusive due to the margin of lead, while in Port Harcourt Constituency 2, the elections were suspended over irregularities. An APC stalwart in Gombe State, Jamilu Ishaku Guama, says the party will win the forthcoming governorship election in the state despite the victory of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the National Assembly and presidential elections in the state. The PDP won 2 Senate and 5 House of Representatives seats in the February 25 elections. The APC stalwart said the PDP won the presidential elections in Gombe State because its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar is from the region. Jamilu Ishaku said he is optimistic that the party will defeat the PDP in the 11th March governorship election.
Gombe State, the people of Gombe State did not vote for PDP because they really want PDP. They voted for Atiku Abubakar as a person who comes from the northeast. That is what happened. But regardless of that, there are also people who believe in Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We got nearly 30% of the vote. So, yes, PDP had like 58%. We had like 30% almost. So you can see it's not about PDP. It's about the personality. And this time, we're also looking at personalities. We're not looking at parties. Because the interest of Gombe State is uppermost for all of us. And we're looking for a candidate that can build consensus, a candidate that can take the state to the next level in terms of development and peaceful cohesion of our state. So I assure you that the people of Gombe State will come around and do a candidate. And I believe that candidate is Mahmoud Inuwa.
And one of the issues that characterized the 2023 presidential election across the nation is that of low voter turnout. As a result, less than 9 million people decided the winner of the poll out of the 23 million accredited voters. And Jamil Mabal examines why there was voter apathy in Katsina State. The report.
Katsina State is a stronghold for the ruling party APC, with more than 3 million registered voters. Yet, opposition won the state. Trust TV observed the low voters' turnout compared to previous elections.
I've been covering elections since 1999, but what I observe, the turnout is very low, very, very, very low. And even if you compare with the figures which INEC gave, that over 80 million have registered, but less than 21 million cast their vote. Actually, there is the issue of, there are different factors. Highest level of poverty, the highest level of non-having a liquid cash with people. Nobody, it's only maybe who are near to the ballot box can track. Secondly, there is a nonchalant attitude. Some people, up to now, more especially in the north, here in the north, people have the belief that whether you do the election or you do cast your vote, whatever the government in power decide.
Residents complained bitterly on the late arrival of election materials. They waited for hours.
Like for my local government example, I come from Jibia local government, and the first thing that first disappoint us was, for INEC not to be able to provide the election material in time, and the election did not start in time. And due to what? Due to, as they said, the problem of passwording or unlocking the beavers. It takes us about 12:30 to start election.
Beavers' malfunction led INEC to resort to manual collection of election results. But opposition parties challenged the manual approach. They said it lacks merit and transparency.
Election will be transmitted there electronically to INEC server, and you can see a lot of manipulation at vote collation and even local government and state collation.
Experts believed there will be massive turnout during the upcoming gubernatorial election in less than 2 weeks. Jamilu Mabai, Trust TV, Katsina.
Now, away from election matters now, the police command in Cross River on Saturday paraded 16 suspects arrested for alleged offences in Ogoja, a local government area of the state. The command spokesperson Irene Ugbo, who addressed newsmen while parading them, said the suspects were caught with arms and ammunition during their arrest in Ogoja after polls. Ugbo stated that the arrest followed a diligent manhunt for those that disrupted some voting centers in the local council area during the polls. The command spokesperson alleged that the suspects were found to have worked for a candidate during last Saturday's elections. Drama, however, ensued during the parade when some of the suspects said there were members of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, and also vigilantes in their community in Obudu local government area. They also stated that they were never arrested in Ogoja, but in Obudu without knowledge of the offense they committed. But Ugbo insisted the suspect will be arraigned in court by next week. And troops of Sector 4 of Operation World Punch and Special Forces of the 167 Battalion have killed a bandit and rescued 14 kidnapped victims in Kaduna State. The troops, who embarked on a long-range fighting patrol to the Tukurua general area of Chikun local government area of the state, engaged and cleared the bandits' hideout during a fierce encounter in the location. The Commissioner Minister of Internal and Security Affairs, Samuel Arowan, disclosed this in a statement issued on Saturday. According to him, during the battle, the troops destroyed several camps and 2 motorcycles were recovered during the operation. He said Governor Nasser El-Rufai, who expressed his elation at the report, commended the troops and praised the leadership of Major General T.A. Lagbaja, GOC 1 Division and Force Commander of Operation World Punch. Now, gunmen suspected to be kidnappers have abducted 2 wives and a son of Chief of Sarkin Kudu in Taraba State. Reports say the incident happened midnight of Friday when gunmen suspected to be kidnappers forced their way into the palace of the Chief of Sarkin Kudu in Ibi local government area and abducted family members of the chief. At the time of the incident, the monarch, Dan Salama Ademu, a third-class chief, was said to have traveled out of his chiefdom when the gunmen stormed his palace. And as at press time, the whereabouts of the monarch's wives and son was not known, adding that there was no contact between the kidnappers and the monarch. Police spokesman DSP Usman Abdullahi, who confirmed the incident, said some suspects were arrested in connection with the abduction of family members of the monarch. Now, the Lagos State government on Saturday opposed requests to exhume the remains of the students of Christland Schools, Whitney Omodeshola Adeniran, who died under mysterious circumstances. Her death occurred amid the school's inter-house sports on Thursday, February 9 at the Agege Stadium. According to a statement by the Director of Public Affairs, Lagos State Ministry of Justice, Alo Grace, Adeniran's death was as a result of asphyxia and electrocution, as indicated by an autopsy conducted by Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. The ministry noted that it was working closely with the police, which had reportedly given their assurance that a duplicate case file would be forwarded on Monday, March 6, 2023, to the Directorate of Public Prosecutions to aid the speedy issuance of legal advice. The National Oil Spills Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, says an investigation into Friday's explosion at the Rumuekbe section of the Trans-Niger Pipeline TNP in Rivers State is underway. The police in Rivers State had confirmed that no fewer than 10 people died on Friday following an explosion near the TNP in Rumuekbe in Rivers State. Director General of NOSTRA, Idris Musa, told newsmen on Saturday that a joint investigative visit, JIV, to the site had been scheduled for Saturday to ascertain the cause of the blast and volume of crude oil spilled. JIV is a statutory inquiry that follows every oil spill incident, consisting of representatives of the oil firm, regulators, host communities, and State Ministry of Environment. The TMP, operated by Shell Petroleum Development Company SPDC, evacuates crude from its oil fields to the Bonny Crude Oil Export Terminal. Now, 3 persons have died and 3 others injured following multiple auto crashes along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The Ogun State Sector Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps confirmed these on Friday in a statement by the Roads Commander and Public Education Officer Florence Okpe in Abeokuta. The injured victims were said to have been taken to a nearby hospital for medical attention, while corpses of the deceased were deposited at FOS Morgue, Ikbara. Meanwhile, the Ogun Sector Commander, Ahmed Umar, has commiserated with the family of the crash victims and also pleaded with the public to always drive defensively by anticipating the action of other drivers and observing road signs. You're watching News Update on Trust Television. Coming up after the break, story of Northern Nigeria's native flute. Do stay with us for that and more.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
TV, documenting the Nigerian story. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching News Update on Trust Television, a recap of our top stories. INEC chairman holds meeting with Rex, promises use of beavers in governorship and House of Assembly elections. And police parade suspected electoral offenders in Cross River State. Moving to other stories now, Climate and Sustainable Development Network, CS-DEFNET, a civil society group, is collaborating with the National Service Park (NPS) to curb the extinction of animal species in the country. The research officer for CSDNERV, Lucky Abeng, said this in Abuja when he paid a courtesy call on NPS to celebrate the World Wildlife Day 2023 with the theme Partnership for Wildlife Conservation. He said the group was determined to build a synergy with NPS to conserve wildlife extinction, especially endangered species in Nigeria. The program advisor for the group, Samuel Ginetu, also assured that the group will partner to conserve wildlife and discourage poaching into the ecosystem to prevent wildlife extinction.
As CS-DevNet, we thought it wise to, while marking the World Wildlife Day, pay a courtesy visit and also an excursion to the National Park Service to also understand what they are doing and see areas where we can build synergy to raise awareness, not just on the part of government, but also creating a nexus between civil society organizations and government in wildlife conservation. Interestingly, we also saw from the presentation of the National Park Service Conservator General that there are some species that you cannot find anywhere in the world, just only in Nigeria alone. And as civil society, it's going to be our effort to also amplify this effort of government to see how even community where these forests, where these endangered species are, can also play their part in ensuring that we conserve these endangered and prized species that we have in Nigeria.
We see this service as a critical stakeholder in our activity. You know, climate change, you can't talk about climate change without different species of animals, especially those that are endangered, including the forest area. These are the reasons why we decided to form an alliance with you and to see how we can commemorate today's event and, you know, build a working relationship that we can, you know, take forward.
We also encourage tree planting. We also encourage people to embark on alternative energy source. So solar power is the in thing now. Then erosion prevention. So we'll liaise with new map to identify areas where there are erosion and bring in new map to assist such communities. So we also distribute essential drugs to clinics in communities. So distribution of farming support equipment like fertilizer, we procure and share. The National Park Service plays a very strategic role in the mitigation of negative effects of climate change. So the 7 national parks in Nigeria, which cover a land area of 22,206 square kilometers, represent about 2.5% of the country's total land mass of 923,768 square kilometers. Of the 6.7% of the country's land under protective vegetation cover, the national park accounts for about 3.7% of this figure.
A gaita, known as flute in English, is one of the musical instruments used in northern Nigeria for centuries. Now, the instrument is still part of the region's everyday life, as blowers regularly feature in events like Durban and in emirs' palaces across the north. And Trust TV's Bello Musa spoke with one of the gaita's blowers at the palace of the district head of Kakuri in Kaduna, who is still earning a living from blowing the algaita. The report.
Algaita is an old musical instrument in northern Nigeria, developed around 14th century. Blowers of algaita are mostly found at Emir's Palace and traditional institutions in Hausa and Kanuri land. One can play algaita continuously by breathing in through the nose and letting out the air by breathing out. Shehu Algaita has been blowing algaita, the instrument, for about 46 years. He inherited it from his father and grandfather. This is called algaita, and I inherited it from my father, who in turn inherited it from my grandfather. I have been blowing algaita for about 46 years. According to Shehu, algaita is used to communicate with emirs and their subject in olden days. We use algaita to communicate with the emirs when they are at the palace, at traditional events, and also when going for war in olden days. Shehu wants government to revive and promote the use of traditional musical instruments like alligator in order to create jobs for talented youths. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
Interesting. Let's move on now. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that's the NDLEA, says it has held talks with its Pakistani counterparts to explore ways of collaboration to restrict channels of trafficking illicit substances between Nigeria and Pakistan. According to the NDLEA, the Pakistani agencies include the Division of Controlled Drugs of the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, DRAP, Anti-Narcotics Force, ANF, and Controlled Substances Section of the Ministry of Narcotics Control. A Director, Media and Advocacy, NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, in a statement on Saturday said the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, retired, approved a delegation to the meeting held on February 27 in Vienna, Austria. At the end of the talks, the two delegations were said to have adopted important resolutions on how to improve their cooperation and tackle the menace of illicit drug trafficking between both countries, especially pharmaceutical opioids like tramadol. On the foreign scene, Rwandan soldiers shot dead a Congolese soldier who crossed the border and shot at security forces on Friday, triggering a brief exchange of fire between the two sides, Rwanda's defense military said. Already strained relations between the Central African neighbors have deteriorated sharply since the M23 rebel group launched a fresh offensive in eastern DRC in March last year, displacing over 600,000 people since then. Congo accuses Rwanda of backing the Tutsi-led group. The United Nations, the United States, France, and other international powers have made similar allegations. But Rwanda denies this and says it is being scapegoated for Congo's military incompetence. The incident at the border took place on Friday evening when the Congolese soldier crossed into western Rwanda from the Grenade Barrier border post outside the city of Goma and shot at Rwandan forces, the soldiers in the ministry said. And with that story, we've come to the end of News Update this hour. To follow us on all our social media handles to get more from us. I am Nten Ekpang. Many thanks for watching. Bye-bye.